All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. Thank you so much for joining us. We turn our attention now to some international news now out of the United Kingdom, as we're learning today that King Charles III will undergo a surgical procedure next week. Of course, Buckingham Palace says the king needs an operation because of an enlarged prostate. His condition is reported to be benign. The palace says the 75-year-old monarch will need a short recovery period. And also the news comes after Kensington Palace also announced on Wednesday that the Princess of Wales is currently hospitalized. Princess Kate will remain in the hospital for the next 2 weeks after going abdominal surgery. Of course, for more on this, we want to bring in friend of the program, royal expert Josh Romm. Josh, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And of course, some medical procedures there within that royal family. What do we make of it? Maybe what's the reaction from the people in the United Kingdom?
Well, I guess the reaction is we wish both Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, and of course His Majesty the King, the speediest of recoveries. What we know about both these statements is, I mean, this is almost unprecedented for both Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace to announce both on the same day that we have two senior members of the royal family, both undergoing treatment in hospital. Now, the palace has been very clear that both conditions are not related to cancer. Buckingham Palace said about His Majesty the King that the condition is for a fact benign. And it's understood that Buckingham Palace made the announcement to kind of raise awareness for King Charles, to set an example so other men would also get their prostates checked. We know that he's undergoing a corrective procedure for an enlarged prostate. Now, Kensington Palace have not been as clear about Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales. They say that they wish that for her medical condition, they didn't actually state what medical condition it was. They wish for it to remain private as such. But what we do know is that it is not life-threatening. As they said, it was a planned procedure. However, what we do know is that it is a very serious procedure. 10 days to 2 weeks in hospital is an extremely long recovery period. And the fact that she's going to be convalescing and recuperating all the way until Easter and not doing any royal duties, not just to kind of maintain a relatively normal life for her children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, but also the fact is that it is an incredibly long recuperation period, so that it must be a very serious procedure, not life-threatening as such, but serious nonetheless, as stated by, or as suggested by the length of the recovery time. What's very notable is almost how apologetic that Kensington Palace was, almost apologizing that the princess is in bad health, and or at least that she has to undergo this procedure, and that they're very sorry that they have to postpone any sort of royal engagements. We know that any sort of royal tours, they're meant to visit Australia. That's of course now going to be put on the back burner. A royal commentator source told me just this evening. But what we know is that, although this is a serious procedure, the prognosis still looks good. But the palace, they're being as transparent as possible by telling us how, or at least implying how serious the procedures are, even though they want the details surrounding exact conditions to remain private. But I think it's notable that especially with the announcement pertaining to His Majesty the King, that they're trying to at least raise awareness for certain health issues within the country as well.
Yeah, that is very true. And of course, you don't want to speculate about health issues, and you want people to come out of these things doing the best they can as well. But like you mentioned, we did have that statement from Kensington Palace. I'm going to put it up here just to kind of echo what you said, Josh, here about it, saying the Princess of Wales appreciates the interest the statement will generate. She hopes that the public will understand her desire to maintain as much normalcy for her children as possible, and her wish that her personal medical information remains private. So privacy, you can certainly understand there the nature of it, but she's going to be not in the public eye for quite some time until Easter. Just give me a little bit of a sense, because obviously for our international audience, not accustomed to everything that goes on with the royals. Maybe how rare is it for them to put out a statement like this? And obviously, both King Charles and the Princess Kate as well. Maybe how rare is it to be so transparent? I know they want to spread the message to make sure people get checked out for the prostate as well. Maybe how rare is this, and what do we make of the statements in that regard?
Well, that's the thing. I think it's almost unprecedented to have two senior members of the royal family be announced publicly that they're going into hospital at around the same time. You know, the royal family back in the day, in the times of King George VI, the palace was very much more discreet. You know, we think back to King George VI when he had part of a lung removed. You know, the public was none the wiser. Only really senior politicians knew about that. Even members of the royal family back in the day were left in the dark at that. So it shows how much the crown, the monarchy, the institution has kind of moved forward. The fact that they feel that they have to be more transparent about this. Saying that, I think what it does is this statement answers a lot of questions. It says how long she's going to be in hospital for, how long her recovery period is. It explains the absence that we're going to see from the Princess of Wales for the foreseeable future until Easter. So it kind of limits that kind of element of public speculation. It means there won't be so much of a media frenzy. You know, they're addressing the issue, that this health issue head on, saying we appreciate how much interest it will receive. But I also want to take you back to the kind of apologizing point, because it almost once again says how much the royal family care about the duty. The fact that they're almost apologizing for what is a private health issue, very much also remaining to the fact that they are dedicated to their duties. They're always thinking about their duties. And again, as I said, addressing the absence head on to kind of avoid any sort of speculation, being as transparent as they can be, letting us know it's serious without it being life-threatening. You know, it answers, although I'm sure reporters like me and commentators like me, of course, will always have more questions, but it very much limits the sort of, it limits the speculation aspect, and it kind of puts emphasis on, okay, we'll be focusing on the recovery of this.
Correct. Yeah, the recovery is so key for it. And like you mentioned there, just the apologetic nature of it, they appreciate the interest the statement will generate as well. You mentioned maybe some of the public appearances that both King Charles and the Third and also Princess Kate will not be at. Maybe how regular are they in the public view, especially this time of year? We won't see potentially Princess Kate until Easter. Is it rare for them to be out of the spotlight for this long? And maybe are they missing out on any public appearances, duties like that? What are they kind of missing out due to these procedures?
Well, in terms of royal events, you know, we won't see Trophy of the Colour until summer, where, you know, there will be the best optimization for weather. But saying that, the royal family every single day nearly undertake royal duties. You know, it's just rare to see either their Majesties, the King and Queen, or the Prince and Princess of Wales not undertaking some sort of royal duty, whether it is undergoing a charity visit, whether it's volunteering, whether it's making speeches. You know, they do, this is their bread and butter. This is what they do every single day of the year. This is an institution that spends its whole entire life and being working to make this country better and lives for people in the UK better. So, you know, I think it's very rare to see a royal not undertaking a duty unless they were really unwell, which kind of underpins the seriousness of Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales's condition. Saying that, Buckingham Palace have said that the recovery period for His Majesty the King will be swift, so we expect him to come back to royal duties far sooner than the Princess of Wales will be. But that's the thing, it's rare to see them not undertaking duties. There we go, we're seeing on screen now just them undertaking their visits, doing their walkabouts. These are normal occurrences for members of the royal family. So I think, you know, for the palace to effectively say You know, we've got two very senior members of the royal family having to take time out. It is unprecedented, as I said before, but it's also letting the public know, it's tackling the issue head on. And that's the thing; it's addressing it, so the public doesn't speculate. You know, we towards the end of Her Majesty the Queen's reign, towards the end of her life, of course, as we saw her health declining. Um, the public and the press were, of course, constantly speculating about Her Majesty's health, and we saw the decline in her health, and we could almost sense the discomfort that she had at her Platinum Jubilee, which was her last major public appearance. However, she was still working privately. We know from royal biographer Robert Hardman for his latest book about His Majesty the King that even the day before she died, Her Majesty the Queen had the famous red boxes, the state boxes with state papers, with letters that she signed literally the day before she died at her bedside. So it is very much possible that His Majesty the King, even during this period of this short period, I should say, of convalescence due to this condition, due to this procedure, that he might still be working in private. That's also very much a possibility.
Yeah, that is a very good point as well. And of course, he is in the 70s, his 70, 75 years of age as well. So King Charles III there. Josh Romm, thank you so much for breaking it down. Of course, the best wishes there to both King Charles III and also Princess Kate and their recovery. But thank you again for joining us to give us some insights and perspective here on Live Now.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Take care as well. All right, it's always great to hear from Josh Romm here on Live and Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take another quick 2-minute break.